Hey guys, welcome back to MarkDillon.xxx. Um, so I've had a pretty interesting day today, and also have quite a mix of questions to answer tonight. But I want to say, first of all, I met one of my Twitter friends for the first time tonight here in New York. Really sweet guy. We went and had dinner, and I have to say, he really surprised me by doing such a nice thing. Um, in a couple of my blog posts, I've talked about things that are pretty important to me, and one is the American Cancer Society. And he actually brought a check to donate to the American Cancer Society, which I thought was really, really cool. Um, that was like pretty incredible. So I want to thank him for that. I know he watches my video blogs, and he's asked for me not to mention his name, but I think that is actually one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time. And those are certainly the kind of friends that I like to make. So, on to our first couple questions. This one is from Eli. He says, Mark, how can I tell my parents that I'm gay? Um, Eli, that's a hard question because I don't know your particular circumstance, and I don't know kind of your family background and history and all of that kind of stuff. But in general, if you're a young person still living at home and you're unsure about how your parents will react, it might not be a bad idea to wait until you're a little bit more independent. Again, you know your family much better than I do, so if you think they're a tolerant family that would be able to accept something like that, and you're just struggling with how to tell them, in that case, I would say that it might not be a bad idea to talk to maybe your mother first, if that's an option. And you know, sometimes it's a little bit easier to um, tell one parent versus trying to break the news to both of them, and kind of do it that way, and then together you and your mom could talk to your dad about it and that kind of thing. But if you're unsure how your family will react, I really see nothing wrong with waiting until you're a little bit more independent, until you move out, until you go to college, something like that. Sometimes young people who are still living at home don't really have great coming out experiences. And, so again, it really does depend on your general feeling of how your family will react. I know we're all very nervous when we're coming out about, we all think it's going to be terrible. But deep down, you kind of know, is your family tolerant? Are they intolerant? Do you hear them, saying nasty things about gay people, that kind of stuff? And I just feel like if you're in a situation such as living at home with your parents where you have very little control, um, just over your living circumstances, it may not do you any good to come out and introduce that dynamic into your home life. So basically, I would say, make that call based on how tolerant you think your family is, and I think you probably have a pretty good idea of whether or not you think they'll they'll be able to accept it or not. And if you think they will accept it, my advice would be to talk to whichever parent you kind of feel the closest to, and sit down with them and kind of explain to them what's going on in your life and how you're feeling, and then together with that parent, kind of discuss it with the other one. That way, rather than coming out to two parents almost in a, it could be like a more confrontational situation. It'll be you and one of the parent explaining it to the other one. So that's just my opinion on the situation. Next question. Um, hey Mark, found your blog and think you're a super nice and very down to earth. My questions are: who is your favorite Golden Girl? What is your favorite Golden Girl scene? For me, Dorothy's sarcasm and dry humor make her my favorite. And I die laughing thinking of the scene where they all had to vote to kick a person out of the house, and it turns out to be 4 votes for Dorothy. Um, it's funny you mentioned that because I was watching that DVD a couple nights ago with that very same episode. Um, I would probably agree with you. Dorothy is my favorite. I think her very dry sense of humor, that razor sharp replies that she has to everything are hilarious. Um, I actually also really like Rose. I think it's kind of it's hilarious how she takes everything literally, and and I also think the interaction between Rose and Dorothy really very often are some of the funniest parts of that show. So, yeah, I would say Dorothy's my favorite. My favorite episode would probably be the finale. Um, that just that gets me every time. And if you're wondering why I'm such a big Golden Girls fan, I'll tell you guys. Um, it's just it's a not only is it a hilariously entertaining show, but when I was a kid and my mother was real sick, we would always go over to my grandparents' house, and I was extremely close to my grandmother and grandfather growing up. But my grandma would always watch The Golden Girls, so my sister and I, we would just watch it with her, and it got to be where like that we were really looking forward to watching it, and we thought it was hilarious too. So now as an adult, there's just something very familiar, very comforting about putting in my Golden Girls DVD and watching it. So that's why I'm such a big fan. Next question is from Doug. Mark, first, I really enjoy watching your video updates and your amazing porn performance. You're a sexual dynamo. Thanks. Um, by the way, I live near Corinth, Mississippi, so I appreciate your frequent references to Mississippi. I also want you to know that I have a great deal of respect and admiration for you because of the decision you make to abstain from drugs and regular alcohol use. Here are my questions. I'm curious to know what the first time you jacked off was. How old were you? Did you do it watching porn? How often do you jack off now? And is it typically while watching porn? Do you get off from watching your own work? Thank you for providing the forum and being candid and answering questions from your fans. Take care, Doug. Doug, I don't remember exactly how old I was when I jacked off for the first time, but I want to say probably maybe 8 or 9, long before I could even ejaculate. But yeah, I wasn't watching porn. I just really enjoyed kind of the sensation of it. My first time jacking off to porn was probably 12 or 13, somewhere in there. And these days, I would say I jack off, oh, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a day. I still do it pretty regularly, very often to porn. Sometimes not. Sometimes I'll just, lay in bed and fantasize about things and all that kind of stuff and get myself off that way, creating a little mini porn movie in my head. Um, let's see, do I get off watching my own work? To be honest with you, I very rarely watch my own stuff. Um, it's not that I don't think that it's good or anything like that, but it's to me it's a little there's some awkwardness to it, and you can't help but get a little bit self-conscious if you see a certain angle you don't like, or if you think you're in a position that you don't quite look good, or a sound you make, whatever. So maybe if I wasn't such a self-conscious person, I could watch it, but I generally enjoy watching other people's scenes more than I do my own. Um, and thank you for the really sweet email. And thank you for the the reference to appreciating me abstaining from drugs and alcohol. That's actually something that's very important to me. So, believe it or not, there's actually people who look down at that, or the fact that I say it publicly that I've never tried a drug or never wanted to try one, and I think can be a good way to mess up your life. Um, I always tell people nobody who's homeless on the street, with nothing but despair in their life and things like that, um, you know, ever anticipated that their first drug use could lead to something like that. So I think that it's far better to abstain from that kind of stuff than to chance it. Some people can handle it perfectly well and use it recreationally and all that kind of stuff, but it's just my personal opinion. I don't want it in my body, and I certainly wouldn't want to jeopardize my future for the idea of getting high and having fun. I can have plenty of fun without doing that. Next question is from Frankie. Do you have any fetishes, Mark? Mm, yeah, for me, that's more about the particular person that I'm playing with or hooking up with. There are certain things that can be incredibly hot with the right person. I think water sports can be really fun in the right circumstance. I think really nice feet are extremely sexy on a cute guy. Um, you know, um, Sometimes role play. That's probably less frequent than the other stuff. Um, Playing, dom sub type stuff can be really enjoyable. I like doing both of those. Toys, ass play, all that kind of stuff under the right situation I like. But feet and water sports can be really hot with a sexy guy. So I would say those two. Next question. Hi, Mark. I was just wondering, what is your favorite part about your job? Do you plan on getting married anytime soon? Also, how has your coming out affected you today? By the way, you are inspirational. Um, Favorite part about my job? Um, hmm, that's interesting because there's so many different parts of it. I would say overall the amount of travel that I do. Last year was probably 300 plus days I spent traveling, which was a blast. Um, I've made friends in so many different cities, from New York to LA, San Francisco, um, Atlanta, Chicago, DC. It's just, I mean, it's that in itself is probably my absolute favorite part. But also, there's this really cool sense of adventure, and it's very hard to explain if you haven't done it. And I think that's one of the things that my friend Casey Williams and I have very much in common. Um, we both really just kind of appreciate being able to participate in this whole kind of crazy industry without taking it too seriously. It really is exciting. You meet some very interesting people. You can develop some amazing friendships, and Casey is a perfect example. He is. I think we were destined to become friends. As a matter of fact, I think we were kind of born friends. We didn't find each other until I was 27, and but I really think we were lifelong friends that were just destined to intersect at some point in life, and it was porn that brought us together. So as crazy as that sounds, but there are some really cool people that I've gotten to meet because of this. So I would say, first of all, the travel. Second would be the sense of adventure and some of the friends you can make, and also, if you have any reasonable amount of competence, you can monetize it pretty well. So third would be just the fact that I'm able to make a very nice living off of something so fun. How has my coming out affected me today? I really, other than the fact that I'm much happier and more carefree, I don't think there's any. I didn't lose anyone really close to me, thank goodness. It didn't cause me any trouble in that respect. Yeah, a few friends here and there, but none of my really close friends, but just some acquaintances, whether from the gym or whatever, that were kind of like just not close friends and had some issues with it, and those people I don't care, whether they're in my life or not. So really, my coming out has had nothing but just it's been great. The only effects have been really positive ones. Much happier, content life. And I think the fact also that I came out when I was ready to. I didn't, I would have loved to have come out earlier, and I think that would have been great if I could have done it, but I wasn't ready. I came out kind of on my terms when internally I had started to come to the realization that it was okay to be me. And I think that made it a lot better because it also put me in a position that I wasn't so worried necessarily about what everybody else would think. I think sometimes people will come out just for the sake of coming out, and not to judge what anybody else does, but I think you should do it when you're completely 100% ready and comfortable to make that decision to come out. Um, and when you're totally comfortable in your own skin, it makes it much easier to, stand up and be proud of yourself and say, this is who I am. So, no, I think my coming out has had nothing but um, good consequences for me. Let's see. Actually, that'll be it. That'll do it for tonight. I think I am gonna actually probably go to the gym, even though it's 10:30 at night. There's an amazing gym here in Manhattan called Steel, and I get some of the best workouts there. So I think I'll head there and do some biceps, which eh, I enjoy doing. So why not? All right, guys. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you visiting markdillon.xxx. And I have to say thank you one more time. We're actually on track to have 1 million visits this year. We're almost at 600,000 visits, and it's July. And that's really incredible. The fact that, 1 million visits to this site just to hear me ramble on and talk about some of the hot scenes that are coming up, that's pretty incredible. And the reason I'm so thankful for you guys visiting is, time is an incredibly precious resource for all of us, and it's very finite. So just the fact that you take a few minutes a day to click on here and see what I have to say, and you send me some nice emails and participate in my blog, I really appreciate that because you're actually sharing your time with me, and that's something you don't have to do. So thank you. Thanks a lot. Mwah. Good night, guys.